A village surrounded by a vast desert, life was defined by the seasons. The villagers depended on the rain to fill their wells, nourish their crops, and sustain their animals. However, over the years, the rains had grown unpredictable, and the once lush land had become dry and barren. Each day, the people would gather near the only well left in the village, hoping for enough water to meet their needs. But even this well was beginning to run dry. Among the villagers was a young girl named Amina. Amina had grown up hearing tales of a second well located deep within the heart of the desert. This well, the elders said, was sacred and forbidden. It was said to have been created by the spirits of their ancestors, and anyone who dared to drink from it would invoke their wrath. The villagers had passed down this warning for generations, ensuring that no one ventured near the forbidden well. Despite her young age, Amina was brave and curious. She often wondered why the well was forbidden and whether it might hold the key to their survival. As the drought worsened, her thoughts increasingly turned to the stories of the forbidden well. She would sit under the shade of a baobab tree, gazing out at the endless desert, imagining what lay beyond the horizon. One fateful year, the drought became so severe that the village's main well dried up completely. The crops withered, the animals grew weak, and the people's spirits were crushed. The elders, who had always guided the village with wisdom, seemed at a loss. They urged everyone to conserve the little water they had left and prayed for the rains to return. But as days turned into weeks, desperation set in. She watched as her family struggled. Her mother's hands were cracked and dry from working the barren fields, and her younger siblings cried from thirst. She couldn't bear to see them suffer any longer. One night, as the village slept, she made a decision that would change everything. She would find the forbidden well. Setting out under the cover of darkness, Amina carried a small clay pot and a cloth to shield her from the desert winds. The journey was arduous. The sand shifted beneath her feet, and the heat of the day gave way to the chilling cold of night. But Amina pressed on, guided by the stories she had heard. She followed the faint outline of ancient landmarks, a cluster of rocks shaped like a crescent moon, a solitary tree bent by the wind, until she finally arrived at the well. Forbidden Well was unlike anything she had imagined. It was surrounded by a circle of smooth stones, and its water shimmered in the moonlight, untouched and inviting. Amina hesitated. She thought of the warnings, the tales of curses and ancestral wrath. But then she thought of her family and her village, of the thirsty children and the dying crops. Taking a deep breath, she lowered her pot into the well and drew out the cool, clear water. The moment she tasted it, she knew it was unlike any water she had ever drunk. It was pure and refreshing, filling her with a strength she hadn't felt in weeks. She quickly filled her pot and began the journey back to the village, determined to share this gift with her people.
When Amina returned, the village was just beginning to stir. She quietly poured the water into her family's storage jar and waited to see what would happen. Her mother, suspicious of the sudden appearance of water, questioned her, but Amina only said that she had found a way to help. That morning, her siblings drank from the jar and immediately felt revived. Her mother, too, seemed to regain her strength. Encouraged, Amina decided to return to the well. Word soon spread about the miraculous water. Amina, unable to keep her secret, revealed the source to her family. Her mother was horrified. "The forbidden well," she exclaimed. "You must stop. The ancestors will punish us all." But Amina's resolve was unshaken. If the ancestors truly cared for us, would they let us suffer like this? She asked. Her mother had no answer. Despite the warnings, Amina continued to bring water from the forbidden well. Slowly, the village began to recover. The animals grew stronger, the people's spirits lifted, and the fields showed signs of life. Yet, a sense of unease lingered. The elders, who had always upheld the traditions, summoned Amina to explain her actions. She stood before them, a small figure against the backdrop of the village, and spoke with a courage that belied her years. "We have been taught to fear the forbidden well," she said, "but fear will not save us. I have seen the well, and it is not cursed. It is a gift we have ignored for too long." Her words caused a stir. Some villagers praised her bravery, while others condemned her defiance. The elders, torn between tradition and survival, decided to visit the well themselves. When the elders arrived at the well, they found it exactly as Amina had described. The water was clear and abundant, a stark contrast to the dry and cracked earth around it. As they stood in silence, one of the oldest elders, a man known for his wisdom, spoke. "Perhaps we have misunderstood the will of the ancestors. Perhaps this well was not meant to be forbidden but protected." His words marked a turning point for the village. The elders declared that the well could be used, but only with respect and gratitude. They organized a ceremony to honor the ancestors and thank them for the gift of water. From that day on, the forbidden well became a source of life and prosperity for the village. Amina, once a curious girl, was celebrated as a hero. In the years that followed, the village thrived. The rains eventually returned, and the main well was restored, but the forbidden well remained a symbol of courage and wisdom. The people learned to question old beliefs and to adapt to new challenges. Amina grew up to become a leader, her actions inspiring others to face their fears and seek solutions, even when it meant challenging tradition. The moral of the story of the forbidden well teaches us that blind adherence to tradition can sometimes prevent us from finding solutions to our problems. While traditions and beliefs are important, they should not be followed without question, especially when they hinder progress and survival. Amina's bravery shows that questioning the status quo and taking risks can lead to positive change. The lesson is clear: fear and tradition should never stand in the way of growth, innovation, and the greater good.